Hello and welcome to another Cliff Reviews Art House. This time I'm reviewing the film Civil War, directed by Alex Garland. I loved Civil War. In fact, I loved it so much that I went to see it immediately again. I don't often do this, but on this occasion, it just felt right. It's not that it's really original cinema, but it's just the sheer cinematic enjoyment. I really enjoyed it. It ticked all of my boxes. I saw it in Leicester Square on one of the big screens with the Dolby Atmos sound, and I don't know whether it was particularly well optimized for that system or whether it's just a great use of sound in a film. I was in the middle of every shot, every helicopter, etc. I loved the sharp cuts between a piece of music, then suddenly jumping into the action. It was such a visceral experience. I thought the characters were fantastic, so I was really engaged in the story, especially when it was tense. I also loved the cuts to the photos in the action sequences. I imagine that it's not so easy to get those shots exactly right. They looked amazing. It really made me think of the great war photographer Don McCullin, so they must have been doing something right. I thought that the US Civil War story was really cool and timely, but we actually don't get very much of it. I did like how it doesn't really take sides. We don't at first know whether it's the president that's gone rogue or whether it's the Western forces, the resistance. I think in the end we are given clear clues. In fact, we do know by the end. But I like it that it doesn't get too political in this way. It's smart because it feels like all factions currently in the US might be able to see themselves in either side. I do think the title is somewhat misleading, however, because it's less about the Civil War than it is about war photographers. And I absolutely loved this aspect of the story and the story between Lee and Jesse, the kind of teacher and the student. It's great acting, it's great chemistry. It's a story about trying to get the money shot. It could easily be called The Apprentice or something like that rather than Civil War. I love the final set piece at the White House. As I say, it's not that this film is especially original, but I was really invested in the characters and I found the action exhilarating just for sheer cinematic enjoyment. I do think it's the sound that really made the experience for me. I thought many of the scenes were just fantastic. The scene at the petrol station, the first big shootout, the Jesse Plemons "What Type of American" scene. I also liked the scenes that develop the relationship between Lee and Jesse, like in the dress shop and where they're sitting in the stadium as Jesse develops the film. And seeing it a second time, these scenes seemed richer, which is a really good sign, I think. However, I did feel that a couple of scenes were slightly off. And of course, you really noticed that the second time. I thought the Winter Wonderland scene was just a little bit odd. And I think it's really strange that Jesse would want to jump into a stranger's car like that. That just seemed very random and kind of unnecessary. Okay, now I'm going to give a couple of spoilers. So if you haven't seen it and you don't want it spoiled, come back later. Another scene that I wasn't sure about was the scene where Sammy dies and we see Joe screaming. This just seemed a bit over the top. These people are living around death all the time and know that they're at risk. This seemed just a bit too melodramatic. And then he seemed to so easily accept Lee's death at the end, which just seemed a little bit inconsistent. I guess that in the end, both Lee and Joe have finally cracked. This was one assignment too far, and it's time for the apprentice to come through. I know people that thought that the ending was a little melodramatic and obvious, the kind of sacrifice. I liked it. Watching it the second time when Lee is killed and Jesse's lying next to her, I had the feeling that it was like a kind of rebirth. It's like something has passed from Lee to Jesse. I really liked the white screen at the end credits that turned into the money shop as it developed. That was a really cool ending. All in all, a thoroughly enjoyable film. It's not that I think it's the perfect film or anything like that, but for me, it just hit the spot. I absolutely loved it and I highly recommend it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.